Now at 6, absolute chaos at an auto auction.
Oh my God!
As a Jeep speeds into a crowd.
We have multiple injuries. Multiple injuries.
Frantic bystanders describing the terror.
This is crazy.
As police begin the investigation into what went wrong behind the wheel. And tonight, investigators say there is absolutely no evidence that this was intentional. Looks like a tragic accident. I'm David Wade.
I'm Lisa Hughes. 3 people are dead, including a mother of 3. 9 other people were hurt when this SUV careened through the auto auction, crashing into people. We have team coverage tonight, beginning with WBZ's Christina Hager, live in Billerica. Christina?
Lisa, Wednesdays are always very busy days here when car dealers and buyers gather in this building to look at the vehicles that are up for auction. Then suddenly this happened. The Jeep traveling about the length of a football field from one end of the Linway Auto Auction building here to the other.
It was shocking because it was a normal day. We started off like a normal day and all of a sudden.
But within hours, it became a day to memorialize lives lost, others fighting to live, all haunted by the horror.
Let's get back in the building. Let's go.
Hundreds of car auction employees, hundreds of customers scattering.
Back up!
As a Jeep with a driver in his 70s behind the wheel went speeding through a wall along with anything else and anyone else in its path.
At least 3 people dead. It was bad. We had to help them drag him out of the car.
There were several officers working details inside before it even happened.
Multiple injuries to her face, motor vehicle accident, car against the building, multiple injuries, multiple ambulances and fire en route.
All I saw was 4 people laying on the ground, and one gentleman looked like a car had run over his leg. The other gentleman in the front, he was just laying on the ground, bleeding from ears, nose, everywhere.
The district attorney confirming 3 people were killed, 9 others seriously injured, one of them with life-threatening injuries. The car in question, a 2006 Jeep Grand Cherokee.
As this vehicle began to enter the building, following a pace behind the car in front of it, it suddenly accelerated, traveled through the inside of the building at a very high rate of speed, striking numerous people, and ultimately was brought to a halt by crashing into a cinder block wall.
The DA says the investigation will be lengthy and now focuses on whether there was anything wrong with the Jeep or with the driver who was an employee here. The airbags were deployed. He was not hospitalized. Witnesses said he was conscious after it happened, but he looked shocked. In Billerica, Christina Hager, WBZ News.
Tonight, a brother of one of the victims tells us his sister, Lisandra Aponte, was a mother of 3 who, get this, had just started working at that auto auction this morning. WBZ's Beth Germano picks up our live team coverage. She's also in Billerica tonight. Beth?
Well, she was brand new at the auction, David. Her family says just looking to pick up a little extra money with a temp job. Now she leaves behind 2 daughters in high school, a son who recently enlisted in the military, and a devastated family.
We just lost our sister, a mother, a daughter.
Orlando Aponte, devastated by the loss of his sister Lisandra, who he says was pinned when this Jeep Cherokee suddenly sped up, crashing into an exterior wall. She had just started a new job at the auction.
She just got this job, started today, saving money for my niece's Sweet 15. And the first day at the job, and this is what happened.
The mother of 3 was just 2 hours into her shift, placed here by a temp agency she'd worked many jobs for, but sudden disaster happened.
It was quick. They said she didn't suffer. It was fast. They said that they tried to give her the CPR and all that, but she wasn't responding.
It was a chaotic scene as first responders tended to the injured. Witnesses running in a panic say the Jeep traveled the length of a football field only to be stopped by a concrete wall.
I saw the car speeding up, so it was so quick, so fast, and then the only reacting that I had, like, to run away.
So fast, the building so packed, witnesses say victims couldn't move fast enough. And Lisandra Aponte caught in the path, her family heartbroken about those she left behind.
She was a great mother. That's all I can say. She was a great mother.
Now, her brother wasn't quite sure what her position was at the auction, but she was clearly on the floor and unable to get out of the way. Reporting live from Bill Ricca, I'm Beth Germano, WBZ News.
Thank you, Beth. Tonight we're hearing the first calls for help from that scene. An officer and a firefighter happened to be working details at the auction at the time of the crash.
How many injuries down there? That's going to be at least 5. 5. You said there's 10 total patients? 10 total patients? 10 people down inside, 3 people outside. 13 right now that I can count. Okay, total of 13 right now. 13. Some off-duty firefighters starting CPR. Also have the police doing CPR on one patient.
Now, this isn't the first time that a crash has happened at an auto auction. Back in 2015, 8 people were hurt when a driver crashed through a crowd in Framingham. This is the video from that incident. And 8 people, again, were hurt there. The I-Team's Ryan Kath here with a look at the safety questions that many people are raising tonight about these auctions. Ryan?
And David, crashes like this have happened all over the country. And just last year, a national auto auction group started offering safety training because of how dangerous these crowded events can be. There are plenty of questions tonight, like was there some sort of mechanical failure with the vehicle? An auto safety expert tells the I-Team Jeep Grand Cherokees do have a long history of complaints about unintended acceleration. There's also the setup of the event itself. Authorities described a scene where customers are walking across lanes of traffic as these cars move by. An attorney we interviewed wonders if something needs to change.
As we've seen these incidences, high up on the list really should be, again, protecting the public, making a barrier, making a safe space and protected zone where the public can stand. We don't let pedestrians walk in the middle of traffic, and neither should we let them approach these vehicles moving by at any rate of speed.
The I-Team found just a short list of federal safety problems, including one serious violation in 2014. In that case, OSHA cited the business for not putting the proper safety measures in place to protect employees from moving cars while they were performing maintenance. OSHA and other agencies now back at the scene tonight, trying to figure out what went wrong here.
Now at 5, Aaron Hernandez's story comes to a shocking end. The former New England Patriot found dead in his prison cell.
Not guilty. Just days after a jury found him not guilty of a double murder, prison officials say Hernandez hung himself. His attorney, friends, and family members in disbelief.
So how does it affect the pending civil case against him in the death of Odin Lloyd? And what happens to the appeal for that murder conviction? What happens next after the death of Aaron Hernandez?
And tonight, we have some brand new details on exactly what happened inside that prison cell. Good evening to you. I'm David Wade.
And I'm Paula Eben. We've learned that Hernandez may have left a message behind. We have a team of reporters covering this story from every angle. But we start tonight with WBZ's chief investigative reporter, Cheryl Fiandaca, with information she broke in the last hour. Cheryl?
Well, Paula, the I-Team has learned that Aaron Hernandez had Bible verse John 3:16 on his forehead. The passage is one of the most quoted in Christianity and says in part that whoever believes in Jesus shall not perish but have everlasting life. Hernandez, sources say, also had what looked to be red marker on his hands and feet. Law enforcement sources say investigators are looking into the possibility that the former New England Patriot may have smoked the synthetic marijuana called K2 last night. They're also focusing on how the bedsheet knots were tied in his cell, like this one. Investigators are interviewing correction officers, inmates, and prison officials. And at this point, sources say investigators believe one of the last people to see Hernandez alive was a close friend who's now in isolation on what's called eyeball suicide watch.
Now, before his conviction for the murder of Odin Lloyd, Hernandez was in the Bristol County Jail for months. At that time, Bristol County Sheriff Thomas Hodgson says he got to know the former football star well. WBZ's Ryan Kath has that part of our story. Ryan?
Paula, the sheriff says he had a number of conversations with Hernandez during the year and a half he spent in his custody. At one point, he says the former Patriot star even invited him to his wedding. And like many others, he was very surprised to learn of his death. When Aaron Hernandez left his sprawling mansion in handcuffs and moved into a 70-square-foot jail cell decorated only with a metal bed and toilet, switched his wardrobe from a football jersey to a uniform with a different number, the man overseeing that transition was Sheriff Tom Hodgson.
When he was here, he'd talk about being in training camp as opposed to accepting the idea that he was in prison.
The sheriff says Hernandez seemed to adapt quickly to life behind bars, constantly trying to win the favor of prison guards.
He could draw you in a matter of minutes if you sat with him. And he had this sort of magnetic personality, very warm smile, and he could just engage you very quickly. He was very, very good at it. He's the best I've ever seen.
Not guilty.
And so as he watched Friday's verdict on TV, Hodgson immediately reacted when he saw Hernandez show so much visible emotion.
For him to have broken down crying, it seemed like there was something. I just, in my heart of hearts, don't believe it necessarily had to do with thinking about, okay, this one's over, but now I'm facing life in prison. It just seems like, because he could control that very well and just adapt to environments.
It was out of character.
I think so, at least out of the character I knew.
Live from the Channel 4 studios in Boston, WBZ News at 11 starts now with breaking news.
A police officer has been shot and wounded in Braintree. Sources tell WBZ the officer's injuries, fortunately, are not life-threatening. We know the suspect, though, is holed up in that Motel 6 right off of Route 3.
The officer was rushed to the hospital in Boston. Liam Martin begins our live coverage of this breaking story now in Braintree. Liam?
Lisa and David, this remains a very tense situation here on Union Street in Braintree. We are about 100 yards away here. If you look down the street, you will see a SWAT team that is next to that Motel 6. They have their long guns drawn and trained on a room inside that motel. The suspect is believed to be inside there. And here's what touched this all off. This happened just after 9 p.m. An officer arrived at the Motel 6 here on Union Street. A suspect opened fire and struck that officer. He has been rushed to Boston Medical Center, where thankfully our sources tell us he has suffered only non-life-threatening injuries. SWAT teams, Mass State Police, Braintree Police, they all then descended on this scene. They have cornered that suspect in a room, and there are hostage negotiators, our sources tell us here, trying to coax that suspect out of the room and keep this as peaceful as possible. In the meantime, the Motel 6 here has been evacuated. Everyone inside that motel has been forced out. All the streets surrounding this area have been shut down, including the Rotary here right off of Route 3. And the Braintree T station, in fact, has just been shut down, and people have been evacuated from there as well, as officers told me on the scene here with their long guns drawn and that suspect armed and barricaded inside the Motel 6 that they are worried that this could go south. For now, those hostage negotiators continue to try to get him out. David and Lisa?
Tonight, an I-Team investigation. A Boston nonprofit that serves low-income kids says an interior designer took their money and then never delivered.
After the organization contacted us to help recover the funds, the I-Team's Ryan Kath discovered other victims all over the country.
Welcome to Million Dollar Decorating.
With a name like that, you can understand why a tiny Boston nonprofit thought it hit the jackpot when James Swan offered to help.
He's absolutely charming, very articulate.
But as the organization soon found out, that friendly offer came at a high cost.
The nonprofit serves low-income kids. How do you do something like that?
At all Dorchester Sports, the after-school program had a security need for new exterior lights in 2014.
It's not a safe place once the sun goes down.
Executive Director Candace Gartley met the designer at a community event where he volunteered to do the design work for free and even order the lights at cost.
We operate on the thinnest of financial margins.
That's why it was a big deal to cut a check for more than $13,000. But after months of excuses and delays, there were still no lights.
No one would do this to a nonprofit youth organization. It just couldn't be possible.
But it was. The nonprofit eventually took Swan to court and won. The designer paid half the money back, and then
he dropped off the face of the earth.
When the I-Team contacted Swan, he admitted he owed the money and promised the check is scheduled to be cut and signed this week. That was in April, and when the money never arrived, the I-Team did some digging.
He feels no remorse.
Attorney Peter Brooks represented a Newton family who hired Swan to decorate their home in Chestnut Hill. But they later discovered furniture they paid for was never even ordered.
This was a conscious misappropriation of funds and then the deceit that followed to hide that.
The family sued Swan and won a judgment of more than $211,000. But the designer later filed for bankruptcy and walked away without the family collecting a dime.
I think it probably eats at them every day.
I immediately thought that he was gone. I just had a bad feeling.
Daniel Erickson is owed more than $150,000 after hiring Swan to decorate his Los Angeles home. Even a private investigator couldn't track him down.
He's hiding in plain sight.
Thank you, Katie. It's great to be with you.
And that's what frustrates victims the most. Along with promoting his podcast, Swan frequently posts about his travel to trade shows in Dallas, Vegas, Chicago, even overseas.
Paris was amazing.
But when Swan shared a photo of his boarding pass on the way to California, the I-Team was waiting for him when he touched back down in Portland, Maine.
Do you remember talking to me several months ago when you said you were going to pay back the nonprofit in Dorchester?
I don't know.
Swan tried to get away, but we let him know we'd looked into his background. You've been doing this for years to people. We walked through the terminal, across the street, into the elevator.
What happened to all that money?
Trying to give Swan a chance to refresh his memory or explain how he has the funds to travel the world.
Why not scrape the money together to pay back the nonprofit?
Like you said you would.
It's still not okay that he's out there doing this. It really bothers me because it affects the kids and the families that I serve here.
After our encounter at the airport, Swan contacted the I-Team to say he still plans to pay all Dorchester sports back. However, the designer denied any wrongdoing on his part with any of the cases we told you about. The nonprofit is still waiting for that check.
Well, tonight we have a positive development to share in an I-Team investigation. This was our confrontation with a designer who ripped off people across the country, including a Dorchester nonprofit that serves low-income children. That nonprofit paid the designer thousands of dollars for work that he simply never did.
But now, after our story, the design industry is rallying to support that tiny organization. The I-Team's Ryan Kath has the update.
It's like a gut punch. You know, it's embarrassing.
Designers like Linda Murrow watch the story in horror, but she and others in the industry are now rushing to help, launching a GoFundMe page to support the nonprofit.
And we felt there's a lot of us. We could all chip in a little bit and say, we love you.
In less than a day, donations already surpassed the amount Swan took and failed for years to pay back.
I'm not a person who cries, but I got to tell you, I went home last night and I cried. And it was good. It was good crying.
Now an I-Team exclusive. How the FBI found Tom Brady's stolen Super Bowl jerseys.
I knew exactly who had it.
A teenage fan thousands of miles away and a Boston agent played a major role in tracking down who took them. And tonight, the young man who helped solve this mystery is talking only to WBZ Chief Investigative Reporter Cheryl Fiandaca.
I knew exactly who had it.
19-year-old Dylan Wagner not only knew who had Tom Brady's stolen Super Bowl 49 jersey, he told the FBI where they could find it.
I was able to provide them with 2 addresses to be able to search.
We talked to Dylan via satellite, and he told us he's a sports memorabilia collector. Last December, after selling Martin Mauricio Ortega a jersey on eBay, the 2 exchanged photos of their collections.
He sent me almost 30 photos of his entire collection. And front and center in his entire collection was Tom Brady's Super Bowl 49 jersey. I asked him outright, I was like, hey, how did you get that? He's like, you know, I'll tell you later, it's a long story.
At that time, there were no reports that the jersey was stolen property. So Dylan shared Ortega's photos with his buddy, Boston ATF Special Agent Christopher Aroni, who's also a collector.
Did someone take my jersey? That's what I'm looking for right now. I put it in my bag.
It wasn't until Brady's Super Bowl 51 jersey got stolen that Aroni got back in touch with Dylan.
He sent me a link to an ESPN article, and in the fine print at the bottom of the article, it stated that this isn't the first time that a jersey was stolen from Brady, and it happened after the Seahawks Super Bowl. I can't believe this guy, you know, had the audacity to go in there and just steal something that somebody worked so hard for.
Dylan says he sent these photos of Ortega's collection and his contact information to the Boston ATF agent, who turned it over to the FBI in Chicago. Agents were already reviewing videotape showing Brady taking off the jersey on the field in Houston and giving it to a Patriots staffer. Later, Ortega, a member of the international media, is seen leaving the locker room with something tucked under his arm.
It really blows my mind, and I was speaking to the FBI agent once that video was released, and it kind of blew his mind as well, because he said that video doesn't really prove anything, and he said without the photos that I was able to send them, they wouldn't have been able to get the search warrant to go into Mr. Ortega's property, into his basement, and recover the jerseys.
The FBI, along with the Mexico police, were able to recover both jerseys and return them to the Patriots.
Look at the grass.
It truly is incredible. I mean, I wasn't sure if they'd get one or both of them back, or even one of them. So to get at least one back, that's incredible. But to get both of them back, that's it's history. It really is.
Recently, the FBI sent the teenager a note to thank him for his help, and Dylan says he couldn't have been more excited to see Tom Brady at Fenway Park wearing his recovered Super Bowl jersey, knowing he played a role in getting it back.
I would love to, meet Brady one day, hopefully. It would really be a dream come true, and, we'll see where all this goes from here, and I'm just glad that he gets his jerseys back.
We reached out to the ATF agent involved in the story, but he said he wasn't able to comment. And the FBI does not discuss ongoing investigations. And as for Dylan, WBZ is working on making his dream come true. Cheryl Fiandaca, WBZ News.
Tom Brady giving the fan who helped recover his stolen Super Bowl jerseys a very special thank you. The I-Team first broke the story of the teenager from the state of Washington who helped connect the dots that led the FBI to the jerseys and the suspected thief.
And as WBZ chief investigative reporter Cheryl Fiandaca shows us, he just got the ultimate surprise.
Here we go, a beautiful signed Tom Brady football.
So what does it say?
It says, Dylan, thanks for the tip, with his autograph right there.
Dylan Wagner is still pinching himself.
It still really doesn't feel real.
Dylan even got a call from Bob Kraft.
Dylan, this is Robert Kraft from the New England Patriots. Just want to thank you for the great role you played in helping us get Tommy's jerseys back.
Kraft invited Dylan to be a guest of the Patriots at their first game. For a teenage fan, it's a dream come true.
I'm just looking forward to be able to meet Brady on the field before the game. That's Tom Brady right there. That is Tom Brady.
Dylan Wagner is still pinching himself.
Did you ever think you'd get this close to him?
No, never.
As a guest of the Patriots, the 19-year-old was on the field when the team raised the banner.
So is this the ticket?
Earlier in the day, Dylan met Bob Kraft, who gave him a signed Brady jersey and tickets to the season opener.
It still doesn't feel real.
This is WBZ News at 6.
Change. We are transferring power from Washington, D.C., and giving it back to you, the people.
And challenge in America and New England.
After a heated election season, Donald Trump sworn in as president. Today, our friends and neighbors raise their voices in celebration.
Here to see my man Trump. Make America great again.
And some in frustration.
This isn't about politics. This is about philosophy. This is about policies.
But the overarching theme here at the Capitol today is of unity and a peaceful transition of power.
We share one heart, one home, and one glorious destiny.
Good evening to all of you in New England, and thanks for being with us on this Inauguration Day. I'm Lisa Hughes.
And I'm David Wade, coming to you live from Washington tonight, where we have this incredible view of the Capitol, where history was made today, right at noontime, when Donald Trump, with his left hand on the Bible, his right hand in the air, and hundreds of thousands of his supporters out in front of him, was sworn in as the 45th President of the United States.
Good evening.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
Right at noontime, Donald Trump became the nation's 45th president. Surrounded by his family, President Trump took the oath of office. Thousands of spectators lined the National Mall to witness the historic and uniquely American transfer of power. And in his inaugural address, the new president laid a new path forward.
January 20th, 2017 will be remembered as the day the people became the rulers of this nation again.
Massive crowds fill Boston Common for the Women's March, a well-organized protest against the incoming Trump administration.
And even larger crowds turn out in the nation's capital to voice their opposition to the new president's proposals.
Even overseas, in cities like London and Berlin, thousands took to the streets to vent their anti-Trump feelings. Good evening, everyone. I'm Katie Brace.
And I'm Ken McLeod. Very similar demonstrations in cities across the country and around the world today. Police estimated the crowd in Boston to be as many as 150,000 people. Among their demands, affordable health care and equal rights for all people. WBZ's Paul Burton begins our live team coverage. He's on the Boston Common right now. Paul?
And Ken, I can tell you this was a lot bigger than people anticipated. More than 200 organizations in Boston alone took part in today's march and rally, which is all wrapped up now. You can see them actually cleaning up behind me. But this was a lot bigger than people anticipated. In fact, the support was so strong you could barely move around the Boston Common here. The Women's March had one clear message to President Trump and to his administration. They will not back down and they will fight for their rights.
We're here to fight, so don't take back our rights.
They chant, they sing, they rally, and they march. On Saturday, more than 140,000 people, including state and city leaders, took part in the Women's March for America. These women stand in solidarity and protest of Republican President Donald Trump.
We are part of a global effort with marches in every single state in this nation.
And these folks are sending a loud and clear message to Washington. They will not back down and stop fighting for women's rights.
Monday, we have to go to work, we have to roll up our sleeves, and we have to get more women elected to office.
The rally was followed by a mile-long march down Beacon Street and Commonwealth Avenue.
For us as doctors, we have a moral responsibility to advocate for our patients, and with repeal of the ACA, that would be disastrous.
We have to organize women in the workplace to let them know that we're not going backwards, we're going forwards.
U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren called for challenging any Republican efforts to overturn abortion rights, to fight for pay equity, health care for all, and for immigration.
Immigration makes us a stronger country. We will not build a stupid wall.
Well, he puts it pretty plainly. He calls himself a poor kid from Lowell whose friend became the President of the United States.
Corey Lewandowski, the first Trump campaign manager, sat down for an exclusive interview with our Paula Eben at his New Hampshire home.
Let Trump be Trump was something I coined.
Corey Lewandowski led the campaign that let Trump be Trump.
And Corey, where is Corey? Does Corey have a ground game or what? Boy.
And he planned everything for 18 months until he was abruptly fired last June.
We won 38 primaries and had more votes than any candidate in the history of the Republican primary process.
Despite his firing, there's no bitterness, and he remains a top advisor to the president.
And there I sat, a kid from Lowell, Massachusetts, across the Resolute desk, the President of the United States and I, just having a conversation. It was pretty amazing.
The graduate of Lowell Schools and UMass Lowell has a Trump-filled office of mementos at his family's New Hampshire home. So 100 days in, how's he doing?
I think he's following through on his campaign promises.
You love the guy.
I do.
But when you read some of the tweets and you hear some of the things he says just off the cuff, do you ever cringe?
Look, most politicians are full of crap, okay? They'll tell you what you want to hear and they'll say it in such a way that makes you sound really smart. And he's authentic.
When he calls Senator Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas, do you think that's helpful?
I don't know if it's helpful.
Candidate Trump, that's one thing. But now that he's the president?
You may not always agree with him, but you know where he stands. And I think there's something to be said for that.
Lewandowski himself is frank and forthcoming on Trump family members working in the West Wing.
Ivanka and Jared, business perspective, but more importantly, one agenda, the president's agenda. And when you have all these people who have the ability to put a fresh set of eyes on how the government operates, you will see change.
On charges of any Trump campaign collusion with Russia.
If they did, they should be held accountable to the highest extent of the law. If that's Paul Manafort or Rick Gates or Roger Stone or Carter Page or anybody else who is under this cloud, they should absolutely be held accountable. They should be in jail. They should be in jail for the rest of their lives. I sat next to Donald Trump for 18 months, 18 hours a day. Never, ever, 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 ever did he direct me or anybody else ever to have any communication with any foreign agency whatsoever. It never happened.
Lewandowski quit his D.C. consulting business last week after accusations the firm was pitching his relationship with the president.
I found out about it. I made a swift and decisive decision to say I can't be part of this.
Is there any chance you'll go work in the administration?
Someday, maybe, but maybe not. Being in the private sector is not so bad.
She is a beautiful little girl from Haverhill who's been dealt an extremely difficult hand. The genetic disorder that she was born with is about to take over the big screen when the movie Wonder opens tomorrow. The 5-year-old has a condition that affects the development of the bones in her face, just like the fictional character in that movie.
But for the family of Cassie Nicholas, the film's an opportunity to spread awareness about children just like their own Wonder Girl.
1, 2, 3.
Who doesn't love chutes and ladders? Cassie does, and she's good at it.
Cassie won! Good job! Cassie has Treacher-Collins syndrome.
That's an extremely rare genetic disorder.
It affects 1 out of 50,000 kids.
Her facial bone's never fully developed.
In addition to the facial deformity, it causes problems with breathing, eating, and hearing. Cassie isn't just wearing a cute headband. The small device on top sends sounds through her skull so she can hear. And that's not a necklace she's wearing. It's a trach to help her breathe. In her 5 years, she's endured 7 surgeries and has a nurse who works with her 40 hours a week.
She knows she's different. She definitely knows she looks different, but she says, you know, well, if we were all the same, then we'd be boring. We'd all be boring.
Just like the fictional kid in the Wonder movie.
I know I'm not an ordinary 10-year-old kid.
And like that character, Cassie's heard the comments, but at this young age, her classmates are mostly curious.
We've had a couple people who were like, what's wrong with her face? Why does she have a weird face? But they just want to know. Once we tell them, they're like, Cassie, come play with me.
Dear God, please make them be nice.
Cassie's parents are excited about the new movie.
I hope that it teaches everyone to be kind, parents, kids, and how we all have feelings. I think that's very important.
And Cassie is clear on that as well.
It's pretty awesome to be different.
She said, it's pretty awesome to be different.
This tiny robot is proving to be an incredible teaching tool for area doctors and nurses. Her name is Super Tori, and she's just like a real baby, medical emergencies and all.
And as Dr. Malika Marshall shows us, Boston Children's Hospital is lucky enough to have her.
She looks real, she feels real, she sounds real, and she's no dummy. This wireless robot is the world's most advanced neonatal patient simulator, recently called into service at Boston Children's Hospital. Super Tori resembles an 8-pound baby and can virtually recreate any neonatal medical emergency. Caitlin O'Brien is a nurse and clinical educator for the Children's NICU.
Within, a couple of tweaks of a button, we are able to make the baby go from a very stable, healthy newborn into a baby that is in acute distress.
Like one with breathing problems, cardiac arrest, jaundice, even seizures. Not only does she move her arms and legs, but she makes lots of sounds and facial expressions. Important cues since babies can't tell anyone what's wrong. Caitlin runs mock scenarios to train nurses, doctors, and other staff. In this one, Tori begins having seizures, and things go downhill from there.
Let's hit the button and get some help.
Can we get some help in here?
Atropine going in now.
Heart rate's good, that's good.
All right, I see the cords, tube, and we're in.
She's seizing again, so why don't we make the baby desaturate again?
The baby's vital signs and movements are controlled by a behind-the-scenes engineer who communicates remotely with Caitlin through headphones.
Katie, let's increase the heart rate up to like 104. Perfect.
These nurses saved the day, but even if they hadn't, it's a teachable moment, and no one gets hurt, not even the patient. Super Tori costs about $40,000, and Boston Children's Hospital is one of the only hospitals in the country to have her. I'm Dr. Malika Marshall, WBZ News.
Boston cheering on the new Super Bowl champions. The snow, the rain, it didn't keep the crowds away at all. And from the players to the fans to the coaches, it was hard to see who was having more fun today. 10 parades in 15 years, you would think Boston's interest in parades might wane a little. Not at all.
You never know if there will be another. The city came out in full force to celebrate the 5-time Super Bowl champion New England Patriots, and the crowd estimated at 1 million people, battling the elements to cheer on Tom Brady and the champs. WBZ's Levin Reed had the chance to ride in the parade, and he's here with us tonight. Lev?
You know, I think everybody got the memo. It seems like it was no school for the kids today, and just call it casual work day for the adults. They always say to act like you've been there before, but sometimes it's fun to let it all hang out.
We got your back. We know that you got our back. And that's number 5. Hell yeah, that's number 5.
From the reaction of the players and the huge turnout by the fans, it felt almost as if this was the first time the Pats won a trophy.
It's a surreal feeling, it's an amazing feeling, and I'm glad that we were able to bring this trophy, this Lombardi trophy, back to these fans.
But maybe this pouring of affection has been 2 years in the making. From top to bottom, the Patriots thank the fans.
My family and our organization feel we have the GOAT of fans on the planet. One thing I know about Pats Nation, y'all, one family. One family.
Another great moment at the parade when Tom Brady motioned to our own Steve Burton, the son of the very first Patriots player, Ron Burton, to toss him the football.
Yeah, you'll see here, as we pop up the video, Tom Brady with his hands up saying, "Throw me the ball." So Steve Burton does it. And Brady catches it. You can see Jimmy Garoppolo say, "Nice throw." The only words to describe this is Brady throws it back to Burton for another completion. Steve turns to the camera and screams, "Let's go." We posted the video on our CBS Boston Facebook page, by the way, and so far it's been viewed almost 500,000 times.
WBZ presents a night of extraordinary hope and inspirational stories in the fight against cancer.
To be living proof, to show other people going through it that you can get through this.
And I know that if I hadn't have access to Dana-Farber, that I wouldn't be here today.
The day he passed away, I knew I was going to do the PMC. That's how important this organization has been to Brendan.
Live from Sturbridge, we're getting closer by the mile. The 2017 Pan Mass Challenge opening ceremony starts right now.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to PMC Weekend. We have an awesome crowd tonight. I'm Lisa Hughes.
This is one loud crowd. I'm David Wade. And we, all of us, are live here in Sturbridge, where tomorrow morning, thousands of people will clip into their pedals and put on those dreaded biker shorts. Too much spandex. But all for a great reason, to bring us all closer to a cure for cancer. And WBZ is so proud to be your official PMC station. Tonight, we are honored to share the stories and the triumphs of many of these dedicated riders. With every mile, millions of dollars will be raised for life-saving cancer treatment and research at Dana-Farber.
Now, this room is packed with just some of the thousands of cyclists looking forward to a great ride through Massachusetts that starts first thing tomorrow morning. And what a history. The PMC is 38 years strong, and it is still growing. This ride is the single biggest athletic fundraising event in the country.
That's right. And all that fundraising really adds up. The PMC has raised $547 million for the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute since it began. 6,200 riders will bike across the state, and there are more two-day riders this year than ever before. Altogether, we will log nearly 1 million miles.
Welcome to WBZ's Faneuil Hall Holiday Spectacular, a special celebration of music and fun for the whole family, with performances by Rachel Platten, Blue Man Group, and Boston Children's Chorus, plus a special appearance by New England Patriot Julian Edelman. Officially kick off the holidays with Boston's biggest tree lighting, Blink, the magical light and sound extravaganza. The Faneuil Hall Holiday Spectacular, presented by Frank Webb Home and by Mattress Firm, starts right now on WBZ. Here are your hosts, David Wade and Lisa Hughes.
Good evening and welcome to everyone at home and welcome to everyone here at Faneuil Hall.
WBZ tonight is going to get you in the holiday spirit with some terrific performances, and then our grand finale. We are going to light up Boston's biggest Christmas tree.
That's right. We're talking about an 85-foot tall Norway spruce, and it'll be all aglow and actually dancing to the music in just a little while.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Light that tree.
The timing is perfect. It works.
From the Channel 4 studios in Boston, this is WBZ News at 6.
Now at 6, absolute chaos at an auto auction. Oh my God! As a Jeep speeds into a crowd.
We have multiple injuries.
Frantic bystanders describing the terror.
This is crazy.
As police begin the investigation into what went wrong behind the wheel. And tonight, investigators say there is absolutely no evidence that this was intentional. Looks like a tragic accident. I'm David Wade.
I'm Lisa Hughes. 3 people are dead, including a mother of 3. 9 other people are hurt when this SUV careened through the auto auction, crashing into people. We have team coverage tonight, beginning with WBZ's Christina Hager, live in Billerica. Christina?
Lisa, Wednesdays are always very busy days here when car dealers and buyers gather in this building to look at the vehicles that are up for auction. Then suddenly this happened. The Jeep traveling about the length of a football field from one end of the Linway Auto Auction building here to the other.
It was shocking because it was a normal day. We started off like a normal day and all of a sudden.
But within hours, it became a day to memorialize lives lost, others fighting to live, all haunted by the horror.
Let's get back in the building. Let's go.
Hundreds of car auction employees, hundreds of customers scattering. Back up! As a Jeep with a driver in his 70s behind the wheel went speeding through a wall along with anything else and anyone else in its path.
At least 3 people dead. It was bad. It looked, oh yeah, we had to help them drag him out of the car.
There were several officers working details inside before it even happened.
Multiple injuries to her face, motor vehicle accident, car against the building, multiple injuries, multiple ambulances and fire en route.
All I saw was 4 people laying on the ground, and one gentleman looked like the car had run over his leg. The other gentleman in the front, he was just laying on the ground, bleeding from ears, nose, everywhere.
The district attorney confirming 3 people were killed, 9 others seriously injured, one of them with life-threatening injuries. The car in question, a 2006 Jeep Grand Cherokee.
As this vehicle began to enter the building, following a pace behind the car in front of it, it suddenly accelerated, traveled through the inside of the building at a very high rate of speed, striking numerous people, and ultimately was brought to a halt by crashing into a cinder block wall.
The DA says the investigation will be lengthy and now focuses on whether there was anything wrong with the Jeep or with the driver who was an employee here. The airbags were deployed. He was not hospitalized. Witnesses said he was conscious after it happened, but he looked shocked. In Billerica, Christina Hager, WBZ News.
Tonight, a brother of one of the victims tells us his sister, Lisandra Aponte, was a mother of 3 who, get this, had just started working at that auto auction this morning. WBZ's Beth Germano picks up our live team coverage. She's also in Billerica tonight. Beth?
Well, she was brand new at the auction, David. Her family says just looking to pick up a little extra money with a temp job. Now she leaves behind 2 daughters in high school, a son who recently enlisted in the military, and a devastated family.
We just lost our sister, a mother, a daughter.
Orlando Aponte, devastated by the loss of his sister Lisandra, who he says was pinned when this Jeep Cherokee suddenly sped up, crashing into an exterior wall. She had just started a new job at the auction.
She just got this job, started today, saving money for my niece's Sweet 15. And first day at the job, and this is what happened.
The mother of 3 was just 2 hours into her shift, placed here by a temp agency she'd worked many jobs for, but sudden disaster happened.
It was quick. You know, they said she didn't suffer. It was fast. They said that they tried to give her the CPR and all that, but she wasn't responding.
It was a chaotic scene as first responders tended to the injured. Witnesses running in a panic say the Jeep traveled the length of a football field only to be stopped by a concrete wall.
I saw the car speeding up, so it was so quick, so fast, and then the only reacting that I had, like, to run away.
So fast, the building so packed, witnesses say victims couldn't move fast enough. And Lisandra Aponte caught in the path, her family heartbroken about those she left behind.
She was a great mother. That's all I can say. She was a great mother.
Now, her brother wasn't quite sure what her position was at the auction, but she was clearly on the floor and unable to get out of the way. Reporting live from Bill Ricca, I'm Beth Germano, WBZ News.
Thank you, Beth. Tonight we're hearing the first calls for help from that scene. An officer and a firefighter happened to be working details at the auction at the time of the crash.
How many injuries down there? That's going to be at least 5. 5. You said there's 10 total patients? 10 total patients?
10 people down inside, 3 people outside. 13 right now that I can count.
Okay, total of 13 right now. 13. Some off-duty firefighters starting CPR. Also have the police doing CPR on one patient.
WBZ's Louisa Moeller is live outside Leahy Hospital tonight with more on the victims. Louisa?
Well, Lisa, 6 people remain hospitalized, 3 people treated and released. And what we've heard from first responders and medical professionals alike is that when it comes to treating trauma, every second counts.
This is a very serious incident. Serious trauma.
Leahy Hospital was alerted minutes after an out-of-control car plowed into a crowd at the Linway Auto Auction. 4 people were rushed to the Level 2 Trauma Center. 1 of them died, while 2 remain in critical condition. 1 patient in the operating room. Another patient is in stable condition.
Our hearts really go out to the families of this tragic event today.
Dr. Casper Reskin-Nielsen says a trauma team jumped into action. 1 trauma surgeon, emergency physicians, and others worked on the group of women and men between the ages of 30 and 60, assessing the patients with little knowledge of their injuries.
I think it's mostly the unknown. You know, we don't know the extent of their injuries. Some injuries could be hidden that we can't see visibly. And then we don't know anything about the patients, about their medical history, so we kind of have to work blind from that perspective.
Their needs complex.
They were multi-trauma injuries expected from this serious accident.
Reskin-Nielsen says time is critical in these instances and recovery could be long.
The 2 critically injured patients probably have a long road ahead of them.
Now, we know some other patients were also transported to Lowell General Hospital. Live in Burlington, Louisa Moeller, WBZ News.
All right, Louisa, thank you. Now, this isn't the first time that a crash has happened at an auto auction. Back in 2015, 8 people were hurt when a driver crashed through a crowd in Framingham. This is the video from that incident. And 8 people, again, were hurt there. The I-Team's Ryan Kath here with a look at the safety questions that many people are raising tonight about these auctions. Ryan?
And David, crashes like this have happened all over the country. And just last year, a national auto auction group started offering safety training because of how dangerous these crowded events can be. There are plenty of questions tonight, like was there some sort of mechanical failure with the vehicle? An auto safety expert tells the I-Team Jeep Grand Cherokees do have a long history of complaints about unintended acceleration. There's also the setup of the event itself. Authorities described a scene where customers are walking across lanes of traffic as these cars move by. An attorney we interviewed wonders if something needs to change.
As we've seen these incidences, high up on the list really should be, again, protecting the public, making a barrier, making a safe space and protected zone where the public can stand. We don't let pedestrians walk in the middle of traffic, and neither should we let them approach these vehicles moving by at any rate of speed.
The I-Team found just a short list of federal safety problems, including one serious violation in 2014. In that case, OSHA cited the business for not putting the proper safety measures in place to protect employees from moving cars while they were performing maintenance. OSHA and other agencies now back at the scene tonight trying to figure out what went wrong here. For the I-Team, Ryan Kath, WBZ News.
Ryan, thank you. We are working hard to get new information, so stay with WBZ both on air and online as we continue to follow the newest developments in this tragic auto auction crash.
We have more breaking news this evening. A huge house fire in Saugus. This was on Walnut Street. When Sky Eye was over the scene late this afternoon, flames and smoke were pouring out of the roof of this home. No word yet whether anyone has been hurt. It's also unclear right now exactly how that fire started.
Also breaking tonight, hazmat crews are at a home in Haverhill where a man was found dead this afternoon. First responders called the hazmat team after they started getting sick in the home. That team is now trying to figure out what it is that made those folks sick. Meantime, the man's death is considered to be not suspicious.
Well, a Boston pastor is accused of selling drugs. Police say they found several illegal drugs and money at 58-year-old Willie Wilkerson's church in Roxbury. The drugs included crack cocaine, fentanyl, and various pills. Officers say they also found more than $10,000 in cash at his home. And what makes this even more shocking is that Wilkerson and his wife ran a 12-step program to help people recover from drug and alcohol addiction. A Hopkinton woman traumatized when a high schooler with a fake gun broke into her garage.
To them, it was just a game, but police are none too happy and are now spreading warnings to parents.
Plus, a new cheating scandal at Harvard University.
We're watching one more day of dry weather before the next soaking storm moves in, and a bit of an unsettled weekend. We'll take a look at the forecast coming up in a couple minutes.
All right, Eric, appreciate it. Thank you. We introduce you tonight to this week's Wednesday's child, 13-year-old Markel. Markel is described as a sweet and sensitive boy with a great sense of humor. Markel is looking for a home that will help him communicate a little bit better, as well as give him the supervision that he needs to stay safe. If you're interested in more information or possibly adopting Markel, go to our website, cbsboston.com/WednesdaysChild.
New tonight, a warning to parents after a Hopkinton woman wound up in the middle of a potentially dangerous game. High schoolers targeting people with toy guns. As WBZ's David Robichaud reports, the teens claim it's just harmless fun.
This is my water gun for Senior Assassin.
These Hopkinton High seniors are packing water, not heat, for a game called Senior Assassin.
You're with a partner and you get assigned another partnership in which you have to shoot them with water from a water gun within a week.
On Sunday night, a player mistakenly went into the garage of this home. He thought it was an opponent's house, but a 70-year-old woman lives there.
She was very frantic, explaining that someone was inside her garage.
The woman remotely closed the garage door to trap the stranger inside, then called police.
I just saw him. He was in the garage and he screamed no, and I said, scream 911. I got him locked in there.
The teen escaped by pressing the garage door button in the woman's car. He jumped into a friend's car, but were soon stopped by police, who thought the occupants could be armed.
In this case, they didn't necessarily draw their guns and point them at him, but they get them in a low, ready stance in case they have to react to a situation involving a weapon.
The teen who fled was Michael Carlos's assassin partner.
When I pulled up, there were 5 police cruisers surrounding the car, and the police had their guns drawn, pointed to the ground, and they were yelling at the kids, saying that they were going to be charged with felonies.
The woman who owns the house had the option of pressing charges against the teenagers, but she declined, telling me, these are kids. They'll get older and grow up. In Hopkinton, I'm David Robichaud, WBZ News.
And new at 6, a cheating scandal hits Harvard. The Harvard Crimson reporting tonight that more than 60 students from an introductory computer science class faced academic dishonesty charges. It all stems from a class that was held in the fall. The students went before the school's honor council for discipline. The results, though, are confidential.
All right, well, today was not a bad day, and by this week's standards, maybe this month's standards, it was great.
I was pleasantly surprised. Yeah. Derek, you had mentioned that it would be a little bit cooler, but I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, not bad today. The clouds around midday, the sun in the morning, back into the sun this evening. We hit 64 in Boston, which is exactly where we should be for this time of the year. So a typical early May day, and now we see the sunshine over Fenway Park. We'll be looking at temperatures dipping back into the 50s, but a nice night for baseball. It's been a little interesting against the Orioles, and we'll see how rowdy the crowd is tonight. We're looking at clearing skies, cool breezy in the 50s, and then low 50s tomorrow night with overcast skies developing. So what we're watching is our storm system across the middle of the country. This exacerbating a lot of flooding in the Mississippi Valley, and eventually on Friday, it brings us a soaking rainfall. Tonight, high pressure building in from the west, and with that, we've had our west-northwesterly winds, pretty gusty outside, gusting 20 to 30 miles per hour, and those winds will slowly subside as we move past sunset this evening. Now, with the calming wind, the clear skies, temperatures are really going to fall back into the 30s for many locations, and so frost advisories are out across much of the area. Not to the north and west because the Weather Service not deeming the growing season having started yet, but it'll be just as chilly for these areas north and west. And if you have some early plants that do not like freezing temperatures, tonight's the night to cover them up or bring them inside. I think most of our lows will be in the mid-30s in those spots, but even when you have readings in the mid-30s, sometimes air very close to freezing right at ground level, and that can damage some of those early
plants. Also with clear skies tonight, there's the Aquariid meteor shower. Now this peaks late week, but there's still a couple in the sky right now. This is our only chance to see them because it's our only night with clear skies. So if you look up, there's a decent chance to see one tonight. Tomorrow morning, bright, chilly temperatures, very cool out the door, but full wall-to-wall sunshine. Nice midday, high clouds begin to increase, but we'll see temperatures finding a spot in the 60s. Sea breezes kick in during the afternoon, so much cooler at the coast. Will be clouding up a chillier feel to the air by tomorrow night with a southeasterly breeze and high temp 60 to 65 inland, mainly 50s right along the coastline. Then we head into Friday. Friday is just the only soaking, really washout day of our forecast. We'll have some showers in the morning, but our heaviest rain is during the afternoon and the evening. Might even get some thunder and lightning mixed in. And then that heavy rain will slowly push offshore as we head through Saturday morning. The last place it'll move out of is Cape Cod and the islands. Widespread 1 to 2 inches of rain. That's not going to cause river flooding, but it's plenty of rainfall for us. Some spots of street flooding, especially for Friday evening's commute. Again, not expecting river flooding or damaging wind gusts or coastal flooding with this storm. Then we head into the weekend. Scattered showers on Saturday. We'll be in the 60s, though, not terribly cool. And then on Sunday, low 60s, again, some scattered showers. Neither day is looking like a washout, but both will feature some scattered rain and definitely have some plans if you're going to be outdoors to get to shelter away from the rainfall. Now, next week looks very chilly, highs in the 50s, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. It's just one of those starts to May, but David and Lisa perhaps will warm up in the second half to make up for it.
All right, that sounds good, Eric. Thank you. They have been really getting nasty, talking about the Red Sox and the Orioles.
Yeah, Steve Burton joins us now. Steve, Major League Baseball is even getting involved.
Oh yeah, they had a little talk with these two teams.
They got in trouble.
Like being sent to the principal's
That's right.
office. That's
yeah.
right. Sox and Orioles, we all know there's bad blood between these two teams, but how long is it going to last? They play at Fenway tonight and tomorrow night. Both teams were on conference call with the league office today and were told to knock it off. But they didn't issue any warnings. Now, last night, Chris Sale threw behind Manny Machado. Both benches were warned. Machado went ballistic to reporters after the game. MLB's Joe Torre told Fox Sports Sale could face some kind of discipline. John Farrell said he's never had a talk with the league like that.
I can confirm there was a call that happened with both clubs to just basically address the last 2 weeks. And to say enough is enough. This hasn't been a one incident type situation. I think that's pretty clear. But we're looking forward to playing a good, hard brand of baseball.
Now, Sale's pitch to Machado last night is most likely retaliation for Dylan Bundy's drilling Mookie Betts in the hip on Monday night. I talked to Mookie this afternoon.
How do you put all the bad blood aside now? I mean, is this thing over or is it going to linger?
I mean, you would say it's over. I mean, it's got to be over. You just got to go out and play the game. It's the most important thing is to win, and what takes place in between is whatever takes place. But as long as we win at the end, that's all that really matters.
Do you like when your starter sticks up for your team?
I mean, you like when anybody sticks up, for your team. So, that's, like I said, we're 25 guys going against their 25 guys, and we have to have each other's back no matter what.
Well, just before last night's Machado incident, the Fenway crowd gave a nice ovation for Orioles center fielder Adam Jones, who said he heard racial slurs on the stands on Monday night. Jones said he wasn't expecting it, and it was certainly appreciated. The standing ovation, that is. Hey, how about Isaiah Thomas? I mean, the guy just gets it done. Celtics last night, Thomas dropped 53 points on the Wizards and would have been his late sister China's 23rd birthday. Celtics now have a 2-0 series lead. They beat the Wizards 129-119 in overtime at the Garden. Now, Thomas had hours of dental surgery on Monday. Then he had to go back to the hospital yesterday morning because the swelling was so bad. Yet he still dropped 53 points, one shy of the Celtics' all-time playoff record. 29 came in the fourth quarter and overtime.
I had talked to Brad, and it just wasn't a good day for me with it being my sister's birthday, me being in the hospital for 3 or 4 hours a day, and I just didn't have the energy. But once I got around the guys and got to the arena, I felt like I can go, and I told them I could, and there's no way I couldn't play on her birthday. I mean, I wanted to win for her, and I wanted to play well for her, so luckily we got the win.
Wow. Just wow. Over in Patriot Nation, we will have a full recap of the Pats draft on Patriots All Access Friday night at 7 right here on WBZ. And in case you're wondering, the Sox will send Drew Pomeranz to the mound tonight at Fenway against Baltimore. That's Sports for Now. I love that crossover move by Isaiah. Guys, over to you.
It was incredible.
So good.
Wow. Well, the CBS Evening News is coming up next at 6:30.
And Scott Pelley joins us live from New York tonight with the preview. Scott?
David, Lisa, great to be with you in Boston. We heard today for the very first time from the FBI Director, James Comey, and his explanation of why he announced a new investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails in the days just before the election. Also, we have a story of a U.S. Army photographer who gave her life to capture her last photograph. All of that and the rest of the world news coming right up on the CBS Evening News in 10 minutes.
That is going to be some story to see. All right, Scott, thank you so much. We continue, of course, here to follow breaking news. A crash at an auto auction has killed 3 people, injured several others. The details coming in about the victims straight ahead.
And because of our coverage of that breaking story, The Young and the Restless didn't air today. You can DVR it overnight here on WBZ at 1:37 a.m.
Well, before we go, we want to give you one more update on the breaking story in Billerica tonight, where 3 people were killed when a Jeep went out of control inside a crowded auto auction.
The crash also injured 9 people. This happened just after 10 o'clock this morning at the Linway Auto Auction, which has been in business for some time. The Middlesex District Attorney says an employee of the auction was driving a 2006 Jeep Grand Cherokee that suddenly, without any warning, sped through the building and began hitting people. A man and 2 women died. We know one of those victims is Lisandra Aponte of Lowell. She had just started working at the auto auction this morning and is a mother of 3. We have a team of reporters on this story tonight. We'll continue to work to bring you the very latest, and we will have it tonight on WBZ News at 11. Get ready for gray and cool.
Yeah, it's on the way for Friday. Tomorrow we get one more day of sunshine, so a cold start, then we're up into the 60s in the afternoon. Nice day. The clouds will move in the afternoon, and then Friday we've got our rain, and it will come down heavily at times. Stop me when that sounds familiar.
Well, we don't have to water.
And I know I ask you this a lot. What's the average temperature right now? What it should be?
62.
Oh,
okay.
So we're kind of right there.
It's actually not that unusual. It just, you want 70s.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A little greedy. We'll see you back here at 11 o'clock.
11.